This is the Daily Brew, 5 minutes or so of grounded insight for a business that works with you, not against you. I'm Teresa Cleveland. Let's go. We usually talk about capacity like it's time or something like that, right? Like, how many hours do I have today? How tired am I? How much energy do I have left? And yeah, those things matter a lot, but they've never really been the full picture. I've been thinking about this a lot, and there's definitely been times in my business where I technically had the time and I wasn't even that exhausted, but everything just felt heavier than it should be, right? Have you ever had an hour feel like 3? Oh, God. And you just wonder why. Like, how could it have taken this long? And then you look at the clock and it's like, guess it didn't. And there's simple tasks that I've done over and over again. I can do it, almost without looking, it feels like. But it might be a day where that feels just draining. And there's absolutely those times that happened well before the end of the day. And I couldn't quite explain why I was done. I just knew I was. And looking back, it wasn't that I was out of time. I was out of capacity. It just wasn't the obvious kind. So there's also decision capacity, emotional capacity, mental focus, just to name a few. And then there's tolerance. That invisible threshold of how much tension or how much conflict I can handle before it all feels like it's too much. And that's why an hour can feel like 3. It's not because time suddenly expanded, but what happened was that multiple capacity banks of mine were being drained at the same time, or one right after another. Look, you can have hours available and still be at capacity. The business may be asking you to make too many decisions, or you're switching contexts too often. We've heard about that, right? Maybe you're holding too many loose ends in your head, or you're operating from memory instead of process. And when your tolerance level blows, it's not something you can just, and hear my air quotes here, rest your way out of. Now, don't get me wrong, though. Take a beat, take a nap, a day or two off, binge some Netflix, whatever it is that works for you, whatever you need. Remember, though, that when you come back, it takes intention not to lather, rinse, repeat back into that same situation. For me, I have to take inventory and simplify things when I find myself in that place. And I don't mean by doing less forever. I mean by recognizing and removing the things that slowly over time I've normalized and allowed to build up. So again, as I've talked about before, it takes awareness. We have to give ourselves permission to be aware, to take the time to figure out what's causing this. Capacity doesn't usually disappear all at once. It leaks, right? Quietly until everything feels heavier than it should. So here's something to notice going forward. Which one runs out first? Your decision tolerance, your emotional patience, your mental focus, or your actual time? And when it does, ask yourself, what was I doing right before I felt it slip away? What was I doing that led me to that point of frustration or, whatever you're feeling in the moment? Because that's usually where the unseen capacity leak lives. We're all different, and each one can happen at various times depending on who you are and where you are in life. The beauty is that once you can see it for yourself, you no longer have to wonder why things feel so heavy, and that's where real solutions begin. So invite awareness into your business with you. You don't have to brush it off. You don't have to, quote unquote, man up. Go ahead and do that. And if you're in a place where you can't stop to really look at what's happening, jot it down, put it in your calendar, wherever it is that you'll come back to it when you can sit down and think about it. That's it for today. And if you found this valuable, follow the show and share it with someone else who might need it. I'll meet you back here next time.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.